Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're going deep on personnel security and risk management today.
Oh, it's a fascinating topic.
It is, using the 10th edition, 2024, of the CISSP Study Guides Chapter 2 as our guide.
Excellent resource.
We'll help you extract those need-to-know nuggets from this chapter,
Yeah, cut through the noise.
highlighting some fascinating and surprising insights along the way.
Absolutely, there's a lot in there.
Now, we always hear that people are the weakest link in security.
Oh, that's the classic saying.
Right. But they can also be an organization's greatest asset.
Absolutely, when properly trained and motivated.
It's true. So this deep dive is crucial.
Really is.
We're going to be talking about how to strategically transform those vulnerabilities into security strengths.
Right.
And, the chapter starts with something that seems really mundane,
Okay.
detailed job descriptions.
Yeah, you wouldn't think they're security essential, but they are.
I wouldn't. How so?
They're like the DNA of your security posture.
Okay.
They're not just about hiring either. They directly impact access rights and those ongoing privilege audits that are so vital.
Right. So it's not just about, posting the job description so people can apply.
Exactly.
It's really a security document.
It is. Think of it as a blueprint for security.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, a well-defined job description.
Yeah.
It ensures that each person's access is laser-focused on what they need
That's it.
to perform their role and nothing more.
Nothing more. The principle of least privilege.
Ah, least privilege. I've heard of that.
Yeah, and here's where it gets interesting. You can connect this to RBAC,
RBAC. Okay, tell me more about that.
role-based access control.
Ah, I see.
So RBAC takes that job description blueprint and translates it into a system.
Interesting.
It grants and revokes access based on those predefined roles.
So it's automatic.
Automatic, precisely.
So RBAC is like the enforcer, the bouncer.
The bouncer, I like that.
Of the least privilege principle, making sure no one oversteps.
Exactly.
It's like a digital security guard for your data.
That's a great way to put it.
Now imagine a scenario where an employee starts in a junior role and over time, they end up with access to sensitive information or systems that are no longer relevant.
Yeah, that's
Well, we call privilege creep.
privilege creep, classic problem.
It sounds like it can really sneak up on you.
It does.
So how do we stay vigilant against this?
Regular reviews, audits. Think of it as a security health checkup.
Ah, okay.
You got to make sure those access rights haven't drifted over time.
And I'm guessing this is where technology like user behavior analytics comes in.
Ah, UBA.
I've heard the term.
Yeah.
Never really understood it.
So UBA is like having a digital detective on your network.
A digital detective.
It's monitoring user activity and looking for anomalies that could indicate a security breach.
So someone accessing files they shouldn't.
Exactly. Or behaving in ways that deviate from their normal patterns.
That's pretty amazing.
It can even detect suspicious activities that might go unnoticed by traditional security tools.
Wow, so it's like an extra layer of protection.
Absolutely.
That's incredible.
Actually, with the rise of insider threats,
Yeah, makes sense.
proactively identifying and mitigating those risks.
All right, so we've got our detailed job descriptions acting as our blueprint.
Yes.
We got RBAC as our bouncer. We've got UBA as our digital detective.
That's a great summary.
But before we even get to all that, we need to make sure we're bringing the right people on board
Absolutely.
in the first place.
That's where it all starts.
And the chapter really emphasizes those candidate screening and hiring practices.
Yeah, it's more than just checking qualifications.
Yeah, so it's about identifying any red flags that might indicate security risks.
Precisely.
Background checks, those are given these days.
Absolutely. Standard practice.
But some organizations are taking it a step further and venturing into the digital world.
The digital realm.
You mean like social media checks?
Exactly.
It seems like everybody's on social media these days.
It's a sensitive area, though.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Needs to be approached cautiously and ethically.
Of course.
Organizations need to have clear policies in place regarding social media screening.
To make sure it's done legally and without bias.
Absolutely. It's about striking that balance between security and individual privacy.
So it's not just about what someone posts publicly,
No.
but how they present themselves online.
Exactly.
Are there any specific red flags that organizations should be looking for when they're doing these checks?
There are a few. Things like posts advocating illegal activities, discriminatory or hateful content,
Right, that makes sense.
even excessive negativity or instability.
So looking for patterns of behavior that could translate into risky actions.
Exactly, connecting the dots.
And of course, the screening process needs to be consistent and applied fairly across the board.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've carefully screened our candidates, found our potential security superstars.
Right.
What happens next?
Onboarding,
They don't just get thrown into the deep end.
definitely not. Onboarding is just as crucial as hiring.
I imagine so.
And it should be much more than just signing a stack of paperwork.
Okay.
It's about integrating those new hires into the organization's security culture from day one.
So make them feel like they're part of the security team right away.
Exactly. This is where employment agreements, NDAs, and acceptable use policies come in.
AUPs.
AUPs.
Setting those ground rules.
Setting those ground rules.
Expectations from the outset.
From the very beginning.
But it's not just about signing on the dotted line.
No.
It's about making sure they truly understand and embrace the security posture.
Yeah, about the culture.
The culture of the organization.
Onboarding should be interactive and engaging.
I like that.
Real-life scenarios, case studies, quizzes.
That's a nice idea.
Drive home the importance of security.
Making it relevant and relatable, not just a box to be checked.
Exactly. And it sets the tone for ongoing security awareness and training, which are essential.
Right. So onboarding is just the beginning.
Just the beginning of the journey.
It is.
It is.
So we've got them onboarded. They understand those ground rules. They're settled in.
Yeah.
Do we just let them loose in the system now?
Not quite. The chapter really emphasizes this ongoing employee oversight.
Okay.
It's not a set it and forget it thing.
Right.
Job responsibilities change.
Yeah.
Technology changes. And we talked about that privilege creep.
Oh, that pesky privilege creep.
It can really sneak in there.
So it's about consistently ensuring that access aligns with their roles.
That's a continuous calibration.
Continuous calibration. Okay.
And there's some really fascinating security tools and practices out there.
Okay.
We talked about UBA already.
Uh-huh. User behavior analytics, that digital detective.
Yeah, but there's some other interesting strategies.
Like what?
Some might even surprise you.
I'm intrigued.
Mandatory vacations.
Wait, vacation?
Vacations.
As a security control.
As a security control, particularly in industries with high security requirements,
Okay.
like finance, it's about having a fresh pair of eyes on an employee's work.
I'm not following. How does that work?
When someone is on vacation, someone else steps in
Right.
to cover those responsibilities,
Yeah.
and that can uncover irregularities.
Oh, interesting. Things that might have gone unnoticed otherwise.
Exactly. It's like a built-in audit, like an unintentional peer review.
Things that might seem normal to one person could raise red flags for someone else.
Exactly.
Okay, I see. It's all about having clear documentation and procedures so that someone else can just step in.
That part of it.
Okay, so we've got UBA, that's flagging suspicious activity.
Yes.
Mandatory vacations are providing that extra layer of human oversight.
That's right.
Are there any other tools or techniques that organizations use?
There are a lot. It depends on the industry and the level of risk.
Right.
Some companies use data loss prevention, DLP solutions, to monitor that flow of sensitive information.
Okay.
Others implement security information and event management, or SIEM systems, to aggregate and analyze logs from various sources.
So technology is playing a pretty crucial role here in keeping up with that ever-evolving threat landscape.
Absolutely.
But what about the human element?
Yeah.
How do organizations ensure that employees are actively contributing to a strong security culture?
That's where ongoing security awareness training comes in.
Not just those boring lectures and video.
No, got to make it fun. Got to make it engaging.
Right.
Gamification, simulations, real-life scenarios.
I love that, making it relevant to people's everyday lives.
That's what it's all about, building a culture of security.
Where everyone feels empowered to contribute.
Exactly. And that culture extends beyond the walls of the organization, too.
Okay.
The chapter talks about this. Managing risk when it comes to vendors, consultants, contractors.
The outsiders.
The outsider factor, yeah.
Right, you could have the most secure systems in the world,
Uh-huh.
but if you're sharing data with a third party who's got lax security, it all falls apart.
Chain is only as strong as its weakest link.
That's a good analogy. So that's where this concept of multi-party risk comes in.
Multi-party risk, yeah. Recognizing that you're extending your trust to those external partners.
And therefore your risk surface.
Exactly. It includes their security posture as well.
So it's not just trusting your own employees.
It's everyone you do business with.
How do organizations manage this?
It starts with due diligence. Thorough vetting of those vendors and partners.
'Cause I'm guessing those SLAs play a role here too?
Service level agreements, absolutely.
So those aren't just performance guarantees. They
Right.
set those clear security expectations as well.
Absolutely. They should define security requirements, responsibilities, and consequences in case of a breach.
Holding everybody accountable.
Everyone on the same page when it comes to protecting that sensitive data.
But it's not always feasible to control every aspect of third-party security.
That's true.
So what then?
Risk transfer.
Risk transfer, okay.
Organizations outsource those functions or services.
Right.
They're essentially transferring some of the risk to that third party.
Sharing the responsibility.
Exactly, but it's a balancing act.
Because you're gaining efficiency, but also exposing yourself to new vulnerabilities.
Precisely. That's why it's so crucial to have a comprehensive risk management framework in place.
Okay, to address both internal and external risks.
Identifying those potential threats, vulnerabilities,
And the potential impacts.
on those valuable assets.
Okay, so we've talked about the who of personnel security.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the what.
The what?
Understanding risk itself.
Risk.
It's a word everyone throws around these days.
It is kind of a buzzword.
What does it actually mean in the context of personnel security?
The study guide breaks it down into 3 core elements: threats, vulnerabilities, and assets.
Okay, threats. What do we mean by threats?
Anything that can potentially harm an organization.
Okay.
It could be a malicious hacker trying to steal data,
Right.
a natural disaster that disrupts operations,
Makes sense.
even an honest employee mistake that exposes sensitive information.
And vulnerabilities are those weaknesses that make us susceptible.
Exactly, a weak password.
An unpatched software vulnerability.
Lack of awareness among employees.
So many things.
So many things.
And then, of course, we have assets.
The valuable stuff.
Data, systems, intellectual property, reputation, brand image.
It all counts.
So risk is basically the potential for something bad.
Yeah.
A threat exploiting a vulnerability to happen to something important.
To that asset.
That's a good way to put it.
And there's a whole science to analyzing and managing that potential.
Okay.
We can take a quantitative approach using data and formulas,
So crunching numbers.
crunching numbers,
Just come up with a risk score.
like a credit score for security.
I like that.
And then we have a qualitative approach,
Okay.
considering less tangible factors,
Reputation damage.
employee morale,
Those things that are hard to measure.
but just as important
Very
for
important.
the health of the organization.
So once we've identified and analyzed our risks,
Uh-huh.
we got to figure out how to address them.
That's where risk response comes in.
Risk response. Lay it on me.
The study guide outlines several options.
Okay. What are they?
The first one, risk avoidance.
Risk avoidance. So just avoid those risky activities.
If it's too risky, don't do it.
But that's not always practical.
Not always.
So then we have risk mitigation.
Risk mitigation, taking steps to reduce the likelihood or impact,
Putting safeguards in place.
strong passwords, security software, employee training,
All those layers.
layering those controls to minimize the chances of a successful exploit.
And then there's risk transfer.
We talked about that with outsourcing.
Yeah, shifting that responsibility.
To a third party, like insurance.
Okay.
And then there's risk acceptance.
And risk acceptance.
Acknowledging that some risks are just unavoidable.
Or too expensive to mitigate.
Exactly, picking your battles.
And then risk deterrence.
Making it too difficult for those attackers.
So they just give up.
Discouraged from targeting you.
Like putting up a beware of dog sign.
Even if you don't have a dog.
Sending that message.
You're not an easy target.
And finally, risk correction.
Having plans in place to recover.
Minimize the damage.
Incident response.
Contain, notify, restore.
Being prepared for that worst case scenario.
But even with all that, there's one element that can make or break it all.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
The human element.
The human element, the weakest link.
The chapter goes deep on social engineering.
Oh, it's fascinating and terrifying.
Where attackers bypass those fancy safeguards and target us.
That's right, because we're predictable.
It's like a psychological arms race.
It is. We build stronger firewalls. They find new ways to exploit us.
So for those who might not know, what is social engineering?
It's the art of manipulating people
Okay.
into giving up confidential information or doing things that compromise security.
And it's not just about those Nigerian prince emails anymore.
No, it's much more sophisticated.
Attackers are using all sorts of tactics
Online and in person.
to get what they want.
Leveraging our natural tendencies, fears, even our desire to help.
What are some of those psychological tricks they use?
The authority principle,
Authority principle?
pretending to be someone with power or influence.
Like an IT administrator or a high-ranking executive.
Or even law enforcement to gain that trust.
The I'm calling from IT trick.
Classic. And it still works.
It does, because we're conditioned to trust authority figures.
Exactly.
Then there's the scarcity principle. Plays on our fear of missing out.
That sense of urgency. Limited time offers.
You gotta act now.
Gotta act now.
And social proof.
Social proof, following the crowd,
Fake testimonials, reviews.
making it seem like everyone else is doing it.
Like those fake online reviews,
Dig this.
creating that illusion of consensus.
Lowering your guard.
Then we have the reciprocity principle,
Reciprocity.
our inclination to return a favor.
You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Those free trials that end up costing you a fortune.
Exactly.
Liking principle.
Liking.
We tend to trust people we like.
Or find attractive, flattery, charm, even flirtation.
It's like a con artist's playbook.
You could say that.
The study guide outlines a whole bunch of techniques that leverage these principles.
Fishing, spearfishing, whaling,
Smishing, vishing,
different channels, same idea.
pretexting,
Creating that believable scenario.
conducting a survey, verifying information.
Offering tech support.
It's all about that story that lowers your guard.
Makes you more likely to comply.
And then there's baiting.
Offering something enticing.
Free gift, a download.
Distracted with malware.
Those free music download sites.
Exactly.
Quid pro quo.
Similar to baiting, but offering a service.
In exchange for information.
I'll fix your computer, just give me your password.
And then tailgating and piggybacking.
The physical world.
So it's not just digital attacks.
Not just digital.
Tailgating, following someone through a door.
Without their knowledge or consent.
Sneaking in.
Piggybacking, tricking someone into letting you in.
Holding a heavy box.
Can you hold the door?
Exploiting that helpful nature.
People are generally good.
I never realized how many ways there are to socially engineer someone.
It's a lot, right?
It's a constant battle.
It is. But there are things we can do to protect ourselves.
Awareness is key.
Awareness is key. Educate people on the signs.
Encourage them to think critically.
Report anything suspicious.
Empowering people to be their own security superheroes.
That's the goal. Building that culture of security
Where everyone feels responsible.
for protecting that information.
But social engineering isn't the only human-related challenge.
No, it's not.
What else is there?
Education and awareness when it comes to emerging technologies.
Okay, so awareness and training.
Yeah.
But what's the deal with education?
Is it the same thing?
Okay, so awareness and training, but what's the deal with education? Isn't that kind of the same thing?
Not exactly. Think of it this way.
Okay.
Awareness is like that initial spark.
Uh-huh.
Gets people thinking about security.
Okay.
Training focuses on the how-to,
Right?
equipping them with specific skills and procedures.
Okay.
But education, that takes it to a whole other level.
Okay, how so?
It delves into the why behind the what.
Ah, I see. So it's about giving people a deeper understanding
Or
of the underlying principles.
not just following the rules blindly.
Right, fostering that security mindset.
Exactly.
Empowering them to think critically, anticipate risks, make informed decisions.
And that's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The study guide highlights this need for education in emerging technologies.
Emerging technologies. Oh, wow.
We're talking cryptocurrency, blockchain, artificial intelligence.
Those are hot topics.
They are, and they present unique security challenges.
It's like the Wild West out there.
It is a lot of unknowns.
It can be tough to keep up, let alone educate people about it.
It's a huge challenge, but crucial that we stay ahead of the curve.
So it's not just teaching people how to use these technologies safely, but helping them understand the security implications as well.
For individuals and organizations.
Makes sense.
And education has to be ongoing,
Oh, of course.
not a one-and-done thing.
Right, constant learning.
Threat landscape's always evolving.
New technologies emerging.
Bad guys finding new ways to exploit us.
Never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment in security.
So crucial to have that solid awareness program in place.
Education and training.
And make it engaging.
Nobody wants those boring lectures.
No, been there, done that.
Death by PowerPoint.
Not an effective training strategy?
So what can we do?
What are some cool ideas?
The study guide has some great suggestions.
All right, get me.
One is to mix up the focus of the training.
Okay.
Sometimes focus on individual practices.
Okay.
Sometimes organizational security.
Makes sense.
Maybe security of customers and clients.
Keeping it fresh, showing how security applies to different areas.
Exactly.
Okay, what else?
Changing the topic order, the emphasis.
Okay.
One session on social engineering,
Uh-huh.
the next on mobile device security,
Okay.
then maybe family and travel security.
Wow, well-rounded.
Got to keep them on their toes.
A variety of presentation methods.
In-person instruction, videos, simulations, maybe even VR.
VR, that's the future.
Could you
It'll
imagine
be so cool.
role-playing?
Role playing, okay.
Give people a chance to experience different scenarios.
Making it real and relatable.
Exactly. And then there's this idea of security champions.
Security champions, I like the sound of that.
Passionate individuals promote security best practices.
Anyone can be a champion.
Anyone from IT to department heads to frontline employees.
So they're like security ambassadors.
Spreading the word, encouraging secure behavior.
Building that culture.
Building that culture.
And gamification.
Gamification, turning security training into a game.
I love it.
Points, badges, leaderboards, challenges.
Make it fun, make it interactive.
Tapping into that competitive spirit.
People learn better when they're having fun.
That's the idea.
This has been an incredible deep dive.
I agree.
I've learned so much about personnel security and risk management.
That's a big topic.
The study guide does a great job breaking it all down.
It's a great resource.
It's a reminder that security is not just about technology.
It's about people.
Understanding human behavior, building a culture.
Empowering individuals to protect information.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well said.
So to all our listeners, take what you've learned today and apply it.
To your own lives, your organizations.
Think critically, be vigilant, stay ahead of those bad guys.
Always stay learning.
Security is a journey, not a destination.
It's ongoing.
Until next time, stay safe and secure, deep divers.
Stay secure out there.